Alright, we've been working on a few things since the last update. We've got the cabinets installed in the van, more electrical work, and I've been working on the plumbing. So we're getting the plumbing all plumbed in. This feeds from the inlet on the outside of the van, and then the distribution to the tank and the pump, and then the water heater will be here. So that's probably 95% complete. We just gotta hook up a few more pieces and then do a pressure test on that. And then electrical, the last time I was working on the batteries, those are all connected. I don't remember if we had those connected completely before, but that's 4/0 wire. They're all strapped in place. And then we've got the main disconnect hooked up with a cooling fan in place, and the distribution system together. We've got parts mounted down here. On the inside, parts are all mounted. None of that's wired up yet. So that'll be the fuse block and disconnects for the power going to the fuse block, and then the inverter charger. So more work to do there. And then we got the upper cabinets all painted and installed. We've got the You Trust the hinges installed. So those went in very nicely. And then we've got covering material on these foam blocks. The van came with these foam blocks up in these areas, and it just really trims out the different shapes of the metal framework nicely. We removed a foam block there, figured out how that was mounted in there. We got to cover that yet, and then work on covering a little bit of the metal in this overhead area. We've got that piece covered in there. Trims that out nicely. That's an example of the foam block that's on this other side. So we got two of those to do. And then the upper cabinet above what'll be the dinette behind the driver's seat, and then the dinette will go here, and then there's the pantry in place. We put the drawer slides in place on that, and that's pretty much it on the inside of the van. Today we're working on finishing the ceilings. We're going to be installing the shiplap on the ceiling. We do have that all in the garage, and Monica's painted all of the shiplap, and then we've extended 3 of those boards because 3 of them will run the full length of the ceiling. And then earlier this week we made a run to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. There's a company there called Rack Up and Go. Real nice supplier we've been dealing with. We bought our 12-volt DC refrigerator from them. This is a Fiamma F45S crank-out awning. It's 13 feet 1 inch long, black in color with a gray canopy to it. So after we get the ceiling all in, we've got all this aluminum sitting here. We're going to be building our own roof rack out of 1.5 by 2 inch with 1/8 inch sidewall aluminum that we got from McNeilus Steel. And we'll be building our own roof rack for the van soon after we're done with the ceiling. And the roof rack, then that will mount the solar panel, some lights, and then the Fiamma awning on the passenger side over the sliding door and running fully to the rear of the van. That's the update for today. Thanks for watching. The garage is a little bit messy. We've got about every tool out for woodworking here, working on the ceiling. So we've knocked out several boards yesterday, and we're gonna get back at it this morning. So in the van, I'll get over there, Got all the various tools here for getting this ceiling put in. So yesterday we got about that far. I don't know if you can see that very well, but we got about half of the ceiling done. Got all the holes, locations for the lights, speakers. Finishing around the max air fan. And then back around the air conditioner. So it'll be nice to get this all done, and then we'll start trimming around those components. So we've finished installing the ceiling. We've covered things in the van, and now we're sanding over the screws. We filled, and now we're sanding there. Monica's working on sanding, and then after we get done with that, we're going to paint today. After it's all painted, we can start installing the lights and the trim around the air conditioner. Get that all trimmed in. Get all the lights installed. And then we'll get the trim and the shroud around the max air fan, which has some lights in it. We'll get the speakers installed. The speakers actually have some LED lights in them. Those are going to be powered from the same power that goes to the max air fan. We got the front blocked off so we don't get a bunch of sanding dust in there. And then today I'm going to work on the overhead panel here that has the Victron display and the light, and then the little car stereo that we're going to put in there. That car stereo will feed those two front speakers, and then there'll be speakers in the back doors. Well, they're open right now, but at the top of the back doors is going to be speakers. So we're coming along. We'll get the ceiling all finished painted today, and we've been looking forward to getting the lights in and the trim around the accessories here soon. So we'll add to the update today. Over the weekend we worked on the ceiling of the van, and pretty much got that complete. It's shiplap material, and we started on the side of the cabinets here and worked our way to the other side. These were all pre-painted, and then we did another coat of paint when it was in the van. Monica's pretty good at caulking, so we caulked the seams or the edges to fill in any imperfections and gaps in that. And then we added the cover for the max air fan. This was an additional piece that you can buy for the max air fan. A lot of people don't do these, but this is a lighted cover, and then it has a built-in shade, and so you can access the fan. We'll probably put some insulation up there in the winter time, maybe even in the summertime, to keep heat and cool out of the van. So that's a pretty nifty addition for that. We've added speakers for the stereo, and then quite a few puck lights in the ceiling. Got those all installed, and finally got to add the trim around the air conditioner. And so it's surprised me how bright the lights are in the van. I got those hooked up temporarily, so you'll be able to see all the lights operating in the van. So got those all in. Ceiling's pretty much finished. We do have to finish in this area above the door. We've started covering that with fabric in the areas that are a little hard to put wood around and trim that out. And then did change. I had the Victron control panel up here, and then there was going to be a stereo receiver up there. It was a little thicker than I wanted, so we made a little change in plans and decided to install those on the end of the cabinet here. So this is the Victron Energy touch screen where we can monitor all the electrical loads and charging and so forth. This is a hole for the stereo receiver that will end up being installed in there. There'll be some wiring behind the panel there that'll be easily accessible in the future if there's any need for repairs. And then also worked on some of the plumbing. I think I've showed you that before, but that was pretty much done. But this is where the water heater is going to go, and this is all completed now. I needed to buy a few more PEX parts for that, but we used PEX expansion plumbing fittings, and so we can fill, or we can actually run the van off of city water supply, and then there's a feature to drain the whole system in the winter time. And then this is the pressure relief connection for the water heater. The water heater will connect to the hot and cold lines right there. So making progress on that. Again, the ceiling complete. Turned out pretty nicely for us. And then changing gears a little bit today, gonna work on the roof rack. I'll show you a couple things on the roof of the van. These are mounts that I purchased last year. Actually purchased those from a person off of Etsy. The Ram Promaster has a pretty nice feature. They have these T I don't know, studs on top of the roof, so there's no hole penetrations that I need to make to attach the roof rack to the van. It's just attach this little assembly of stainless steel parts to these T studs. This just goes on there like that, and then a couple bolts. This goes over it, and then the other angle bracket there. So mounts up pretty nicely, and that's what will attach the 1.5 by 2 inch rectangular roof rail for the roof rack system. That'll be aluminum, and that'll run 13 feet from front to back, one on both sides. Solar panel will be mounted in the center on that roof rack, and then on this roof rack portion will be the Fiamma 45S awning. That awning is the 400 model, which is 13 feet 1 inch long, and it's a manual crank out awning. I think that'll do it for the update, and we'll see what's next. It's getting dark, so thought I'd add this quick little piece on how it's lighting up the van on the inside. So you can see the Max Air fan and lights around it, little accent lights in the speakers, but I was kind of worried how bright those lights would be, but actually lights it up pretty decent in here. All right, I'll let it go with that. Have a good day.